You can't avoid it. You need to actually talk about what is population health management, just like we did at the beginning here. What it allows you to do, or where you go to, is looking at everything that's important to somebody. So therefore, the answer isn't necessarily a health service. It might be housing, it could be something around communities, it could be social care, it could be prevention. So it gets you to think much broader. Leeds was 3 CCGs, and it was a decision that we were going to move to be 1 CCG. And almost that gave us some freedom and opportunity to really start to think differently. And that was where we started really looking at what did we mean by population health, what did we mean by population health management.
The CCG has a strategy to move towards value-based commissioning. And we know that can only be achieved by agreeing outcomes that we want to achieve for the population. But then that acting as a catalyst to bring providers together, working with people from those populations to really integrate and identify solutions to meet those outcomes. So it's a real enabler. I think in Leeds we've got a really strong linked data set. And so population health management gives us the means to really capitalise on the strong assets that we have, and really target that, enable us to focus resources on improved outcomes. And I think that if we didn't have those outcomes, I think we could end up in a place whereby we were testing lots of different interventions, but without that focus on people and what matters most. So it's kept us on track and focused, but also what matters most to people has been the constant question that we've kept on coming back to, which I think is quite different to other approaches that we've taken.
Yeah.
It's just very much felt the right thing to do.
I've been clinical lead at the CCG on frailty in the last few years, and also been the GP lead for our local care partnership. So from being a clinical lead in the CCG across the city on frailty, and having been involved in the development of the outcomes for frailty for the city and a potential model of care for frailty across the city, and then the next step using the population health management programme and to see that care model being developed locally and down to the patient on an LCP level. We use that basic model of care, but it's about adapting that for your own local population. So different populations in Leeds may have different needs, but we can still use the same model that was developed, but adapt it locally for our own populations.
So population health management to me involves not just looking after an individual patient in front of me, but a whole community, and we look at their health needs across the whole patch, and we then try to plan care and services around their needs. It involves trying to analyse what those needs are, analysing data, quality data right down to individual conditions and patients. It involves a whole community, all the assets in that community, voluntary sector agencies, social services, council and health. So it's a real mix of how to match the population needs to the provision which is in the community. Leeds was then seeing that frailty was a real priority, and we were asked then to be involved. We were guided by the data to find a cohort. So without the data, we probably couldn't have identified this group, and we were particularly high on balance issues and also weight loss in older age frail patients, and we saw that those were well outside the normal distribution and range, and that those two groups would be then the most appropriate to focus our intervention on and to try and get benefit in those areas. In Pudsey, we wanted to be holistic rather than just focus on a general practice model, which may involve sort of a frailty review once a year for a short period of time. We wanted to be considering the patient as a whole, and with our interactions with occupational therapy, we felt that they were probably at a better position to offer that intervention than general practice.
We developed a Living Well group, which was a clinical consultation group led by an occupational therapist. And so people have been invited to that group, and so we've had patients attend that group, and you know, from that group they've been able to understand further about what they're doing well so far, how they maybe need to develop their resilience, what things they need to put in place to enable them to manage better as they get older, how they to live well as they get older. And I can think of one particular gentleman that came to that group, and he was quite, you would consider probably as you typically frail. He walked in with a stick. He was quite unsteady on his feet. I identified with him also that actually there's other things going on here. There's some other risk factors here. He was talking about the fact that he'd had falls, that his mobility wasn't great, and had a conversation with him in that group to say, actually, I think you'd really benefit from a multidisciplinary approach. I think you'd really benefit from a home visit, to actually come and see you at home. I then did a joint visit with the physio, and we put actually quite a number of strategies in place in that home, and actually that man hasn't fallen since, which, considering probably within a 2 or 3 week period he'd fallen about 2 or 3 times. So actually, we can't say categorically that it was our interventions that did that, but we can say he hasn't fallen since. And if he does fall, we can be confident that there's things in there to minimise the risk, to minimise the harm. He feels more supported, his family feel more supported. We can see immediately that there's maybe been a change, there's maybe been an impact.